Hello and welcome to Talk a Good Game. It's match preview. West Ham United against Brentford. Gonzo, can you kick us off with your thoughts on the Bees, please?
Yeah, they've had quite a they've had a bad start to the season by their standards, but what a compliment that is, by the way. I think the trouble is, people, once a team gets established in the Premier League, you get very used to it and you get very accustomed to it, and you find yourself having to remind yourself. And Brentford are a club I know really, really, really well. So my great uncle was years ago when they were tiny, was actually on the board there years and years ago. So I've always known of Brentford. I've never, ever known Brentford to be a good team. And I am now 50 years of age. So I've been around a while, right? For them to be in the Premier League is miraculous. It is. It really is. And the achievement is no lesser now than it was when they got promoted. We've spoken about the model that they have as well, many times. Every time we play Brentford on this channel, we talk about the model and the infrastructure of the club and what they've done. But it is amazing to get into the Premier League, to stay in the Premier League, and they will stay in the Premier League again. And whilst they might not have hit the dizzy heights of previous seasons, just to stay in the Premier League is a magnificent thing. To be able to fund a new stadium, it's just incredible. Everything is amazing. And I just don't ever want to sort of lose sight of that, Geo, just how amazing it is for this tiny club. And I don't mean that in disparagement. Hopefully I'm not coming across as condescending. I'm really not. This tiny club to be in the Premier League and punching everyone on the nose all the time is I think is absolutely brilliant. I did want to say, actually, with all this Ivan Toney stuff coming out, I thought Eriksen, I didn't like what happened with Eriksen.
Yeah.
I thought they gave him a chance for legal and medical reasons. He couldn't continue playing. It was registration in Italy. And he needed a chance. And understandably, there are a lot of people very nervous. And it's not about a lack of kindness, but no one wants to be seen, without being funny, to have a player having a cardiac arrest and then be responsible for it. That's all it was. And Brentford said, you know what, we're going to give you a chance. And they did. And I didn't like the way he just left. The moment a better offer came along, and I was sort of hoping from Eriksen, bearing in mind he almost lost his life. I was sort of hoping for this moment where he might be thinking, do you know what? Actually, the family environment I've come into here in Brentford is just this is more important than me. I'm lucky to be alive. Never mind playing football again. They're giving me a chance, even though the old health certificate on other countries might be a bit dodgy and all the rest of it. They're giving me a chance. And so that has always stuck with me. I thought they let him down. I think they've stuck with Ivan Toney. And even when he was, a long way from coming back, you would certainly hear about them talking about Ivan Toney and the captaincy and stuff like that, and him being a leader. And very much they were talking about him as a figurehead for the club. And I sort of like to think by the same thing that Toney would be thinking, do you know what? Fair play. They've stood by me here. I've been a bit naughty. They've stood by me. I'm going to serve me punishment. I'm going to walk straight back into a job, and I'm going to repay these people. Yet all I hear is sort of whispers about how he wants to get away and he can better himself and the rest of it. And I don't like it, quite frankly. And I would just like to say, I think Brentford are bloody hard done by. I think they're a decent club, and I think they put decency out there, and I don't think they get decency back.
I think I agree with what you've just said about Christian Eriksen, but I think the two players are completely different situations. I think Ivan Toney, has already repaid Brentford with his performances thus far prior to his ban, and then post-ban, because in a more competitive Premier League last season, for example, Brentford would have been in a relegation battle with the form they've shown in the first half of the season. They're still only 5 points clear of the relegation zone at the minute, so they're not that far away from the bottom three. However, they'll be fine. They won't go down this season. And Toney back now, they will stay up.
Yeah.
But I do think if Ivan Toney didn't exist right now, if he was banned again for the rest of the season, suddenly I think you look at Brentford and go, whoa, they might get sucked into it if they're not careful. You're only 2 losses or 2 wins away from your rivals. And if Everton can overturn their points deduction, suddenly that's another team above them. They go a little bit closer to the relegation zone. And I think Toney will repay them by his performances thus far, his performances yet to come, probably in the game we're ready to speak about as well. But then his transfer fee. I know what he's doing. He is twerking for a move away, but Well, he is.
I love that term. That's brilliant. That's even better than flashing your knickers. I'm liking. He's twerking for a move.
He is twerking for a move every time he gets an opportunity, but he's only answering questions. Journalists are saying to him about moving on to a bigger club, and when he's at the age he is, he's got aspirations to play international football, Champions League football. He probably wants to win medals. I find it difficult to sort of grumble when a player shows ambition, and that's what he's doing. And perhaps he doesn't have to be so open about it, but what I think he's doing is, first of all, he's encouraging a bidding war. He's basically saying, come and get me. And that's the best thing for Brentford. The best thing we did this last summer with Declan Rice. The best thing for us was when Man City came in, we were negotiating with Arsenal. It felt like we were struggling to get anywhere. Man City come in, suddenly it's banned. There's your 105 million. What happened now? Thank you. The best thing for Brentford is there's at least two teams willing to put down big money for Ivan Toney, and they can get big money. But Thomas Frank's also very open, saying he's going in the summer. He's probably going to go in the summer. They've already signed his replacement. So Brentford are ready for Ivan Toney to leave. I think Ivan Toney arguably is doing the better thing by almost saying, come and get me, because it almost caused Brentford a financial issue if he turns around and said, no, I'm staying, thank you very much. They'd go, hang on a minute, we've just sanctioned a £30 million purchase on this fella from Belgium who's arriving in the summer. And now we've got Ivan Toney. I mean, it would be a fantastic strike partnership with this. You guys, any good? I've never heard of him until Brentford signed him. I don't follow Belgian football, but I don't mind what he's doing. And I think when his words got twisted a couple of weeks ago, when Ivan Toney said, "Oh, you heard Thomas Frank, he doesn't want me here," and it was put into text form, but that's dangerous because when you watch the video, he's smiling and laughing as he says it, and it just removes the tone altogether. And black and white, it sounds bad, Ivan Toney, going, oh, you heard what my manager said, he doesn't want me here. It sounds really bad. But when you watch the footage, actually, it shows respect and relationship between Ivan Toney and his gaffer and an understanding that he's going in the summer. And to be honest, we've seen the other side of it. We've had the badge kisser. We've had all this guy go, is that guy leaving in the summer? Oh, West Ham. We've had that, and then he buggered off anyway. So we've seen almost not the betrayal, but more has come out. Jody Morris was on a podcast last week saying about how he texted Declan Rice saying, would you come back? And Rice said, yes, of course I would. So there's like, hang on a minute. How much has Rice been up to? At least with Ivan Toney, unlike his gambling, there's nothing secretive here.
Yeah, the adulterer and the gambler. Be a good book.
There you go. That'd be a good autobiography once he's retired. I'm looking forward to purchasing Ivan Toney, My Truth. Yeah. But in regards,
for the record, it's a club adulterous nature. I'm not accusing Declan Rice of cheating on his missus.
Yeah. Anyway, in regards to my thoughts on Brentford, I think Thomas Frank's still a really good manager. I think Brentford have done well to keep him there. Yeah. Every time a big job comes up like Spurs, he gets linked to them, and there's not really been much of unlike Ivan Toney, there's not really been much of a whisper that Thomas Frank would leave. I think Brentford, to some extent, feel braced for Frank eventually moving on to a bigger club, but I'd imagine they will have that ready, which is the release clause in his contract, the replacement identified already. So they
West Ham, similar.
Yeah, I'd imagine we've got all that lined up. Of course we do. But yeah, I think Brentford are doing a good job. And like you said, to stay in the Premier League season after season without spending loads of money and sticking, I think having a plan is one thing, but sticking to it is a much more difficult thing. But it being successful as well on top of that is even more difficult. But Brentford are proving that you can do it. There's a lot of things West Ham do better than Brentford, but there's a lot of things Brentford do better than West Ham at. And I think the way they structure their club and the way they stick to their model and the fact that they have a plan and a project, I think we can be envious of that, because at the minute, West Ham are showing they've got nothing in that regards. And there's a big difference between the two. What we won't do then, we're not going to do players we admire, Gonzo, for the first time ever. Quickly.
Are we going to do a little, like a 10-second segment of what West Ham do better than Brentford then?
No, we're not going to do that, because what I want to ask, actually, no, players you admire. Give me one or two quickly.
Collins. Collins. Every time I watch him defend, quite like him. That's the same guy that was at Wolves, right?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I like him. Listen, I don't spend that much time watching him. What's happened to the geezer that played alongside Tony with a beard? Looks like King Leonidas from 300.
Mbuemo.
Yeah. What's happened to him?
He's injured. Don't worry. You don't have him to deal with. I think Mope's done well recently. Wissa's done well at African nations and come back, so that might help Brentford.
Wissa calls us all number of problems, doesn't he?
Yeah. He does well against us.
Yeah.
I think Jensen's someone I think always goes under the radar at Brentford. I don't think he's been great. I've watched him quite a bit recently, actually. And I don't think he's been great in the last few weeks. I think Janelt has been probably the better of the centre midfielder. But I do like Jensen quite a lot. I think Hickey and Henry, who are both out, are really good players as well. I'm not keen on Collins. I was when he went to Wolves, but I think he didn't look great at Wolves. He's gone to Brentford and he's had some good performances. But I thought they were fantastic against Man City defensively the other night, and he wasn't in that defence. They had Pinnock, Ayer and Ben Mee in there. Flecken looked like a dodgy keeper when he first arrived, but he's looked really good recently. So there's plenty of good players at Brentford. What I wanted to ask you, though, Brentford up for sale. That's the big news this week. Looking to get an evaluation of around 400 million. The owner, obviously a big fan of Brentford, and backed them in. Took over in League One, backed them before that as well. Could be a big change for Brentford, though.
Yeah, that they want to be careful about that. Well, listen, the owner doesn't need to be careful about that. It's 400 million. Don't worry about it, mate. Take the money, buy your yacht, and off you sail, right? But yeah, I mean, he's a big part of it, and I do wonder if anyone that buys that club understands what they're buying, because actually they might be buying something that they value at 400 million, but how much of that 400 million is down to the owner? How much of that do you lose when he goes? I do wonder. I do wonder about that. It's a bit like it's a really bad example, but it's like a company bought the UFC for $4 billion. It was based on Conor McGregor being a figurehead, and he just didn't fight anymore. You know what I mean? Actually, hold on, we got this bankable asset. He's a really integral part of that. Anyone that buys Brentford better have a bloody good plan. They better make sure they keep everything in place, and they better hope that disparity between the Championship clubs, which are finding it harder with every season, harder and harder to bridge the gap, to such an extent, I think, without these bans, punishments, Everton punishment, possible Nottingham Forest punishment, I do believe we're about to enter the realm of 3 up, 3 down every season, the same 3. That's 5. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe you've included Man City as one of the other 2.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. But yeah, it could be without a financial punishment. So I think, can they get over? Can they get enough? I think the case is, can you get enough £20 million players in your team that insulate you and make you that much better than any promoted club? And I think that's really the thing for anyone that's down there. And I just think if you've got that, and you probably can do that, and got a couple of £30 million players in your team and such, that you're going to always be better than the promoted clubs. So I think they should be careful with that, though. Very careful.
Yeah, it makes me a bit nervous as an outsider looking at it as well. Obviously, I don't know enough. We're not Brentford fans, but a bit like Tony Bloom at Brighton, Matthew at Brentford is almost like the perfect owner for them. He's the reason they're in the Premier League. He came in. It was probably one of the first people to really go heavy on data when it comes to football club, and he believed in his model. Others didn't, including Mark Warburton to some extent when he was manager there. He wanted to sign players old school, and Brentford were a bit, no, we've got a model, and this is how we do it. Mark Warburton, I don't know, buying players through numbers, no thank you. But it has worked. They're in the Premier League. It's proof that it works. But because of how little clubs manage it, I think it's proof that it's an incredibly difficult thing to do. It's all very well relying on data. Anybody can pull up spreadsheets and numbers, but understanding them and then utilising them is completely different. But Brentford have shown that if you get the right people in, it is possible. And I agree with what you said about how the club might be valued at 400 million, but how much of the value is down to the owner at Brentford. And this is the risk, I suppose. And if I was a Brentford fan, I think I'd be a bit nervous at this one, because at the moment you have somebody that would never put your club at risk, not in a million years. When it comes to FFP, or the Premier League's equivalent of it, that's not a risk. When you see Forest and Wolves and Everton all being, West Ham all being in headlines with the FFP next to it, you think there must be an element of, thank God that's not us, and thank God that will never be us because of him. And I do wonder and worry that if the incorrect investment came in, that they would look to try and almost plough money into Brentford, and it could have sort of unnecessary risks attached to it. Now, obviously, the obvious counter here is that the guy in charge of the football club would never put the club at risk, so you'd imagine he would do his due diligence on the buyers of the club. Still comes with a risk, though. So I was surprised to see it up for sale, and I appreciate what they're trying to suggest. They're suggesting that we need more investment to grow Brentford, but actually, I still think maybe the right person to grow Brentford is currently at the club doing what he's doing and just keeping them in the Premier League and trying to just get a little bit better every single season. And this success at Brentford wasn't rushed. I don't think they need to rush it today.
No, and the model, the FFP model, which is prohibitive and stops ambition, is not set up for Brentford to grow.
Well, I would argue, actually, Brentford are one of the clubs that could grow. That FFP will prevent clubs like West Ham growing because we can't just throw money at it now. We have to work smart. Brentford are already working. Let's just say they sell. What do you reckon they'll get for Ivan Toney? 70 million?
Well, not 100 million. I think people watching different games to me if they think 100 million. He's a good player, but no one's buying him for 100 million pounds.
Well, what do you reckon then? 80 million? I don't think it'd be far off 100. I think it'd be well over 50. Well over 50.
Yeah, I think it'd be over 50. 65 million.
Let's meet in the middle. Let's say 70 million, right? I think 80. Well, let's just 70 million to get. They've just, in their eyes, signed his replacement, Thiago, for 30 million. That's 40 million pounds profit. Cha-ching, thank you very much. They've not even started the transfer window yet. I actually think their model, buying players, growing them, and potentially selling them on, you will benefit from FFP. Their restrictions, they will have more flexibility in the transfer window than a lot of other clubs because they get their transfer recruitment usually correct, whereas the ones that get it wrong,
but they're not going to get Champions League football doing that because it's stacked against them. And I think that's the thing. And I think they've already what they're doing. So all I'm saying, I'm not saying they can't. I think they can do what they do. They can the odd season, sneak into that top 8 and stuff like that. I think they can do that anyway. So I'm just not sure. I'm not sure there's that much more expansion for growth there because of that. And I listen, I wish it wasn't that. I wish that a multi-billionaire, look, firstly, I wish they'd do it at West Ham. Well, we've got 3 of them. They just don't want to spend any money or they can't spend money, whatever. But, I would like the model to be allowed that a multi-billionaire could take over Brentford and go, right, okay, whatever, Man United, okay, but let's have a little pop at this. Let's throw 300 million at the team right now and see what we can do. And we'll keep Ivan Toney, actually. And we'll keep all of our best players and let's go and sign him. I just not, that's not going to be capable for them. So I already think they are where they are. And yes, that's not for me to tell them they shouldn't be ambitious. I'm not the one telling them. It's FFP.
Be careful what you wish for.
Exactly, yeah. It's FFP telling them they can't be, basically.
Anyway, enough about Brentford. We spoke about them for quite some time. Right, let's move on to West Ham and start with a little bit of team news. We've obviously got no Calvin Phillips for this one. He's suspended after getting sent off against Nottingham Forest. And there's a great big question mark over Lucas Paqueta. He's back in training. Moyes confirmed in his pre-match press conference ahead of Nottingham Forest that he's back on the grass, that phrase. However, reports over the last 24 hours have suggested he's not yet available to play and shouldn't be played on Monday night against Brentford. So for this one, Gonzo, I think what we'll do is we'll create our team without Paqueta, and then we'll have a 2-minute discussion as to what we would do if Paqueta becomes available for Monday night's game.
Okay.
You okay with that?
I'm happy with any rules, Geo.
Except the FFP ones.
Except those ones. Yeah, I don't like those ones.
Anyway, right then, talk me through your goalkeeper and your defence, please.
Areola in goal. He's in good form at the moment, so we'll stick him between the sticks.
Despite conceding 8.
Well, I'm going with 11.
Oh, okay, yeah. 11.
I'm going with 11 goals in the last 3 games. So, yeah, but he's not been too bad, actually. All I can say is, yes, he has in the last 3 games, he's conceded 11, but realistically, and I don't joke, I might be smiling when I say it, we're lucky it wasn't 20. Okay, on the last 3 games. So anyway, so that's that. What am I going to do? Ben Johnson at right back. Konstantinos Mavropanos at centre half with Naif Agurd alongside him and Emerson at left back.
Why Mavropanos and Agurd?
Well, they're mobile. They've got the use of both legs, which is good, which I really like. I just cannot. It's honestly, it's like watching. The worst hasn't happened to Zuma yet. Okay, I was sort of watching it, from between my eyes. Zuma, the actual worst didn't happen. He's not completely broken down. Believe it or not, despite the 11-0 aggregate deficit in the last 3 games, you've not seen the worst from Zuma yet. He actually managed to recover. The fouls a lot of time worked. Granted, he got cards and all the rest of it. He didn't quite lose it completely and break down. All right. He did make some tackles. He did make some headers. He was able to get back in position. But we are very close to seeing what is going to be really, really tough, a really tough watch, which will be him getting bullied, him getting outpaced, and him directly being culpable for lots of goals. And just there was a point. The reason he had to pull down what's his name against Forest was West Ham had this really, really high line, and if you look where he was again, he was almost on the halfway line. He had to do it. There was no way he was going to be able to run back to his own goal. He's barely fit for purpose now, Geo. So that's good enough. Even all Mavropanos has to be as functional, and that will do for me.
I completely agree. By the way, it's a choice between Aguerd and Zuma to partner Mavropanos. There is actually. It's got to the point where there's now a case for Ogbonna to start alongside Mavropanos. I would give Aguerd a go on this one. I think the Brentford attack now. It's difficult to work out what Brentford are going to do because against the Big Six, they traditionally play a back 3, and against the non-Big Six, the other 13 of us, they tend to play a back 4. And that obviously then changes how they go up front. So if it's a back 3, you'll see 2 strikers. If it's a back 4, you'll see 1 out-and-out striker or 2 players either side of him. So it's difficult to work out how Thomas Frank's going to approach this game. And that's for David Moyes and his coaching staff to work out, not for me to work out. But regardless of how they do it, Zuma's going to struggle against this Brentford team. They will sit in deep. They will soak up pressure and look to go direct. And that will mean spacing behind our defence. And regardless of who's up there, I'd imagine it'll be Wissa, Toney, and Toney, possibly with Keane, Lewis, Potter, maybe not, depends on the defence. But they will cause us bother. I don't want to see Zuma put in that situation. I think Aguerd was at fault for both goals against Nottingham Forest. But I still think generally in play, he was our better player. He was our better centre-back. He was our better left-back. At one point, he was our best winger for 5 minutes. That should not be the case. And I want to see him partnered alongside Mavropanos, where we're not defending for large periods of the time, reducing the risk of him making errors leading to goals, and having 2 centre-backs capable of playing the ball out from defence and possibly even dribbling with the ball out of defence if needs be. So that would be my back forward as well. Soufal has to come out. He's not been playing very well for a while. Johnson should have started against Nottingham Forest. Didn't. Soufal did. Played poorly. Johnson goes in for me. Now, moving into midfield, this is where it gets a little bit tasty. Then, what would you do in there?
Just have to play Alvarez and Ward-Prowse. Can't see any other alternative in the middle there, really. Unless you've got one.
Yeah, I would go Alvarez and Souček.
Oh, would you? Okay.
Yeah, but I would also give Alvarez a captain's armband for this one. It's time for a big change. We need a big change. I don't want Souček with the armband on, but I'd play him next to Alvarez for this one. I've had enough of James Ward-Prowse. I'd like to see him benched for this game, and I don't like Ward-Prowse as a number 6 sitting in deeper in midfield. I don't like him in there. Souček can play him there. You lose a lot in regards to what he can do with the ball, but what you gain a lot with what he can do without it. With Ward-Prowse, doesn't do much without it and does very little with it. So I think Souček actually has more advantages playing in sort of a double pivot than what James Ward-Prowse does. And it allows us to bring in one more attacking player, having Souček in there, I think. I'm not sure Ward-Prowse offers that protection for the defence that Souček does. He was dropped against Nottingham Forest, deservedly so. But the players that played against Nottingham Forest did not perform, and that includes James Ward-Prowse. So for me, he sits this one out, and I would give Souček a run next to Alvarez. Now, moving up ahead of the team, I think this is where we're maybe going to have the same team, unless you've got James Ward-Mouse playing somewhere. What's your front four? Give me the rest of your team, please.
I'm going to play Kudus in attacking midfield so we can shoot from long range. I'm going to play Bowen on the right. I'm going to play Antonio on the left, and I'm going to play. See, I know you've got the Cornet on the left, haven't you?
I have.
I'm going to go with Mabama up front.
I get it. We've got to do something. We've got to go more attacking. I think whether we go with your one, which is Mubama and Antonio on the left, or mine, which is Cornet on the left and Antonio up front, I think both intentions are clear. We need goals. We need to attack. We need an additional attacking player in the team here. And Kudus in the number 10, which would be exciting.
Get some shots off, wouldn't he? Look, defense isn't working. Can't even argue with it. You cannot, in terms of what is the evidence before your eyes, in terms of the statistics, defense isn't working and the attack is not working because we're just not scoring any. So it's 11-0. I'm going to keep saying it, I guess, in the last 3 games. And I'm not. It's not like I'm mucking around and trying to massage the stats because the game before that, 4 games ago, we won 5-0. No, it's been crap for quite a while. And at some point, you have to say, look, defense isn't working. Whatever we're drilling, whatever we're trying to do, whatever we're working on in training, it ain't working. The old mojo's been lost, and whatever the tactics are, we better get on the front foot and just try and keep the ball away from our defence as much as possible. And even as simple a tactic as that is, that might be helpful. So, yeah, that's another reason to actually have a go for it. Maybe get them thinking. Maybe give them something to think about. If we do the tired, same old crap, Thomas Frank's going to say, one look at that team sheet, go, yeah, right, as you were, boys, exactly what we've been working on in training.
Well, since promotion, Brentford have played us 5 times and won 5 times. Frank's got Moyes' number. There's no doubt about that. So I think we need to change it up because what we have done previously, it's not been working recently for West Ham in the league, in the FA Cup, but it's also not been working against Brentford historically. There's 2 bundles of evidence that we need to change something for this one. The team I've gone for, nobody's in an incorrect position. Bowen's in his best position. Kudus is in a position that he's played loads for Ajax. Souček, Alvarez in their positions. Cornet's in his position. Antonio's in his. Everybody's in their best position, I think. And, well, Kudus will wait and see, but they can't both play right wing.
No.
I don't want to see him out on the left, though. I don't want to see him stuck out there, which I think Roslav is possibly a bit of a weakness for Brentford and somebody I would like to see as attack. But I thought that about Nico Williams defensively, and he pocketed Mohamed Kudus. So there's no point. Even if you come up against a weaker fullback, there's no point. It's not working. Anyway, we're going to discuss how big a game this is and if we're confident for it. Before we do, just want to point in direction of Match Bingo. Now, if you are tempted to get involved with Match Bingo, you haven't done yet, or if you have downloaded it, make sure you get this app loaded back up ahead of Monday night's game. You can download the app for free. The link's in the description. Please do use that link so they know you've come from Hammers Chat. It's free to sign up. Now, usually up until now, the West Ham game, you've had to pay to play. But for Monday night, you can get a free card for this game. So you can get your bingo card. You need 15 things to happen in the game. So you might be cheering on. You might need a throw-in for West Ham. You might need a goal kick for Brentford. You might need a corner for West Ham. You might need Brentford to make their 3rd substitution. There's various different things you will require to happen. There's 3 prizes. You've got the first line, second line, as well as the full house. And we've been fortunate enough to have a few winners on Hammers Chat. Not me and Gonzo or Charlie. We've not won anything. But Robert Singleton has, Adam has, Ryan has. They've been winning second lines, first lines, and the full house.
Better than a full house last week, didn't we? Yeah. Hammers Chat,
Yeah, they're all cash in. So get involved. We always encourage you to play the free-to-play game to get used to the game. But at least this one, you can play the free-to-play game, which includes West Ham. But also while you're on there, grab your bingos card ahead of the weekend as well, because that is where Ryan won his money last weekend. He was the first person on the app to get all his teams to score goals on 2 lines, and he won 50 quid. Happy days.
Can I just say, Geo, on that, we really appreciate you.
Yeah.
Posting about it as well when you win, because look, I'm not gonna pretend otherwise. It absolutely helps us with the sponsorship, but it's nice for everybody else to see that people are winning this stuff. So thank you very much indeed.
It proves the app's genuine.
Yeah,
it's all very well me and Gonzo sitting here going, hey, download it, it's a good app. But when other people say, I've downloaded it, I've won a bit of money. authenticates the app we're promoting. So thank you very much to everybody who's got involved. So please do get involved this weekend. Links in description. It is a gambling app, so 18 plus only. Please gamble responsibly. However, that is included within the app, hence why it's only £2 to play per card. Gonzo, big game.
Oh, it's a big game. I know you just said that. I just repeated you, but it very much is. I am really pleased. This game is not at the weekend because I'm not looking forward to it. But funnily enough, I am looking forward to my weekend. So West Ham are not going to ruin my weekend. The worst they can do is ruin Monday, and Monday's crap anyway, right? So I'm all right.
Actually, it's Monday night, so you can enjoy Monday. It's just
yeah. Well, I'm pretty miserable on a Monday anyway, so it's it's my default setting on Monday, so that's okay. So I'm quite pleased about that. It is a huge game. Look, there's so much has been said about David Moyes, and I've said a lot of it myself, but I don't want to separate myself that I'm not part of it. I absolutely am. But this recent talk that whatever happens, he sees out the season, I don't necessarily believe. I look, he needs to pick up a win against. Well, what he doesn't get to do is get no wins against Nottingham Forest, against Brentford, against Everton, against Burnley. Pick up 1 point in there and it's not against Burnley. I think he's gone. So I do think it's a massive game for him. I keep saying this. I want to see a reaction from him. It's like you say, Thomas Frank's got his number. The defence isn't working, like I said. Anybody, I want to see job preservation from him. I want to see that David Moyes knows that his job's at risk. And I don't mean in the way he speaks to the media. I mean in his actions. I want to see some realisation from him that, oh, damn it, what I've done is not been working. This whole way that I've been playing, it's not that it's been rumbled. There's no rumble. There's no nothing. It's just at the moment, it's not working because it's so reliant on one player. So now he better think of something else. He better think of something else to get another attacker on there. If he doesn't, then he will get nothing from this game. If he changes nothing, West Ham lose.
Yeah, I think it's a big game for West Ham as well as David Moyes, because what was sliding down the table, actually, and what we had to play for a month ago is becoming less and less likely.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of a pivotal game prior to our game for West Ham, which is the Carabao Cup on Sunday. We need Liverpool to win that. And if Liverpool wins it, that Conference League allocation comes into the league table. Suddenly there's an extra European spot to play for. Obviously, if Chelsea win it on Sunday, they will go into the Conference League, assuming they don't finish in the top 6 or 7 in the Premier League. So this is a big game for us, and it's a big game for Moyes as well. If we lose, he has to go. He has to go Tuesday. We're running out of time to sort of save our season, if you like. And if we didn't have the Europa League, I might not have this opinion, but we do have the Europa League. And we cannot have a manager in charge of those 2 games that is producing this, because we're not scoring goals and we're conceding a lot of goals. Now, one on their own is a bad thing, but both at the same time is a horrific thing. And we need to see a reaction. And I think we're going to see desperation, which is Lucas Paqueta.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because when a person is under pressure, they become desperate. And when they become desperate, they make rash decisions. They look for desperation. I think Lucas Paqueta is that. I think you've seen a little bit of it with Antonio last week, straight in from the start. In you go. I'm desperate. Please, Mickey, save me. In you go against Nottingham Forest. And I think we might see the same again on Monday night, which is Paqueta straight in, because I need you. I need you to bail me out of here.
I wonder what his response would be to that, because bearing in mind he was clearly brought back too early before and he broke down early in the game. Broke down after 8 minutes. He was off after 13 minutes. I do wonder, this would be interesting if he knows. See, the messaging from the club or the leaks come out there was really interesting. I found the wording really interesting. He's not ready to play and he shouldn't play. You even said it at the start of this video.
That's the reports,
Yeah, he shouldn't play. It's almost like somebody saying, do not dare.
Yeah.
He's do not dare play him. And I do wonder on this, maybe if Moyes, he wouldn't say the actual words, but anyone could translate it as being, can you please save me, Lucas? Can you please save my job? And I do wonder if there might be a case of him saying, no, I came back too early last time. No, I'm going to follow the physio's schedule. He's more than capable of going and getting treatment overseas. So it shows that he's not completely convinced by the treatment he gets over here. I just wonder if there might be a case of him saying, no, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready. We're working to my schedule.
The one thing I'll disagree with Bear, though, is when you said he'll follow the physio's advice, I think he did it the first time as well. I don't think Moyes would overrule a medical department. He might do, but I think when he was played the last time, I think it would have been done with the okay from the medical staff, and then he played him. So I think there's people. Moyes was partly at fault for playing Paqueta last time when he broke down, but I think there was other people as well at the club, and this is the physio, because those leaks that came out wouldn't have come from a medical person at the club. I don't think the doctors all of a sudden started leaking stuff at West Ham.
He's the only one that doesn't.
Yeah, he might as well just join in. Hey, why not? Start getting involved. Thinking, well, I'll tell you what, I seen Steiden and Moyes having a disagreement in the canteen the other day.
I want an exclusive from Beryl, the tea lady. That's what I want. An unnamed source, a top source in the canteen has said, yeah, absolutely. Zuma's been eating chips all week.
No, there you go. So the medical guy might get involved as well. I think for Paqueta to be available, I think it would be approved by the medical staff at least anyway. They'd say, yes, you can play him, kind of thing. Are you confident?
No. No Paqueta, no win. Well, actually, no Paqueta, we lose. I cannot see any way for us to win this game. Well, I've just said there is a way, and I've just explained it. But if that's not happening, I honestly think, I'll give you a scenario now. He rushes him. I need to say, he rushes him back, and he breaks down early in the game. You might as well pack your bags, Moyes, because that's it. That is the ace. That's the get out of jail free card. That's it. You're done. So, yeah. But what a shame that he would let it get to that, if that's the case. And it, honestly, whilst I blame everyone,
Paqueta might be ready.
He might be ready. But whilst I would blame and I do blame everyone for January, I don't look for one scapegoat there. I would have no sympathy for Moyes for allowing that squad to enter February in the way it was. And I've not enough is said of this. Not enough is said about this. The fact that Sullivan, the game was against Bournemouth, was on transfer deadline day. He should not have been there. He should not have been there.
Well, Steiden was there as well.
They shouldn't have been there. He should not have been there. In fact, I wish Moyes wasn't bloody there as well.
An hour before a kickoff. What was kickoff? 8 p.m. Was it? Yeah. Well, no, 7:30. Was it 7:30? They were different that week.
I should know. I was there, but yeah, it was. Yeah, whatever. But
I think it might have been 7:30. But regardless, an hour before kickoff, Steiden was on the touchline just chatting to David Moyes.
3 hours before the transfer window. And they all knew. All three of them knew that the squad was unbalanced and the squad was thin.
And they all knew Fornals was initially named on the bench.
Yeah.
He was meant to be on the bench that evening and had to be withdrawn because of the situation. Yeah. And the answer was Sullivan was going to sit down with his blankie over his knees and watch the game, and Scarfman was going to have a chat to him Moyes on the touchline about, I assume, the game.
I would argue with anyone who wanted to counter that by saying that was anything other than incompetence on all their parts to allow that to happen as the transfer window started to close, to allow the squad to be what it is now, that he is now so desperate for this one player to come back and save his bacon is... I find it very, very hard to balance up. So, look, it may work for him, but whilst I would be gutted as a West Ham fan if Paqueta came back and broke down immediately, there is a part of me that would look at Moyes and go, bang, and there you go, son. And you are responsible as part of that, whatever, committee or whoever. You are... Somebody should have been pushing. And the last couple of days, we cannot allow our squad to go into February like this. We've got Europe coming up. This cannot be allowed. This cannot be allowed. And at some point, you go through all this time saving money. Sorry, I know it's meant to be a preview, but you go through all this time saving money. At some point, you just have to get the deal done. And there were deals there to be done, and we didn't bloody do them. So, yeah, what you reap what you sow. And honestly, and literally, the field has been sowed, and we're about to find out what the harvest is now, and it might not be very much.
Yeah, because we've saved money, we can no longer afford to save Lucas Paqueta.
Yeah.
Pretty ironic, really, isn't it? I'm not confident at all. There's no evidence. There's nothing. There's nothing to get optimistic for. I don't like using head-to-head statistics. Usually they involve different managers, but actually this is one game that you can use it because it's Frank versus Moyes for the seasons. You can't. This is actually a reliable bit of data going into this game. So you take that, when you take West Ham's form. Now, Brentford's form on paper doesn't look great, but they're playing better. I've seen a lot of them recently, both games against Man City, the first hour against Liverpool before we did our build-up show against Nottingham Forest, and they held their own. When I came to do the build-up show, they were doing well against Liverpool. I think they fell apart. As soon as I stopped watching, they fell apart. But against Man City, if Ayo didn't slip, they might have got a point at the Etihad. Their performances are better than their results, and Ivan Toney is obviously a catalyst for that. But we're coming up against a striker bang in form, trying to earn a 70, 80 or 50 if you're going to £1 million move. Coming up against two centre-backs, one can't move and the other one can't defend. Tony's scoring on Monday night. There's just nothing. Some things feel inevitable, and him scoring. And I'll tell you another one that feels inevitable. When I was watching Everton play Crystal Palace on Monday, I said, Calvert-Lewin hasn't scored in so many games. We know. I thought, do not back him to score in this game. He's not scoring against Palace because I know exactly which fixture he's away to finish that one up again. Because there was that statistic, wasn't it? Neil Mopey went like 40 games without a goal. His last goals against West Ham. And then he scored against us. I was like, I'll leave it out. How is that even possible? But here we are. Any final words in your score prediction, please, Gonzo?
Yeah, look, I'm not hopeful. I tried to be a little bit positive. Well, actually, I predicted a 2-1 loss, and then against Forest and changed my mind, so I got excited in the build-up show. So what I say now has no bearing to what I might say in a build-up show. I'm up and down like a yo-yo with this stuff, but this is what I'm thinking at this point right now without seeing the team. I mean, as you mentioned, against City, they've looked good since Tony's come back. Actually, they look a real threat. You said against City they were holding their own. You're right. They're holding their own. We're holding someone else's. Is that right? No, we're not even. Whatever. Forget that one. That's a bad one. I can't edit that out now. But anyway, 3. What? No, we won't score a goal. 3-0.
I'm going to say 2-0. Brentford. Weird. I've never been so confident about a scoreline either. I feel quite confident that it's going to be 2-0 Brentford, and I do not like it. Anyway, if you somehow enjoyed this laugh, I know we're having a bit of a laugh, but I think we've both gone beyond anger to some extent. Yeah. I think it's almost like if you don't laugh at the situation,
gallows humour.
Sit over there and cry. Sit over there. There's no room.
Sit on your bookshelf and cry.
Yeah, I'll just face the bookshelf and cry.
Whilst Tony Gale laughs at you.
Yeah, something like that. But anyway, if you've enjoyed this preview, please do drop a like on it by clicking thumbs up. Subscribe to Hammer's Chat. We'll be live an hour and 5 minutes before kickoff, so that'll be 6:55 on Monday night. And lastly, if you can, please do download the Match Bingo app using the link in the description or the pinned comments. It's free to download, free to sign up, and it's free to get your first card, one card only. Get your card for the West Ham Brentford game, because Charlie will be playing his bingo card during the watch along as well. Myself and Gonzo will tell you what our card looks like in the build-up show. So get involved. Myself and Gonzo, catch you on Monday.